thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step.
What must be done to make Doctor Who solvent? This topic was requested by a viewer after having viewed my video on what must be done if more Star Trek is made. Though the problems with New Trek and New Who are similar to some degree, the situation for each of those shows is different. New Trek does not exist in the same timeline as classic Star Trek due to corporate rights divisions. Therefore, it is much easier to dismiss and ignore. With Doctor Who, there is, and to my understanding never has been, any division of the rights. Therefore, everything which occurs in the New Who series officially and legally occurs in the same universe as the original series. For some fans, this fact has ruined their ability to enjoy the classic and original Doctor Who series. However, I ignore and dismiss the New Who episodes on the grounds that they are made by different people who have gone outside of and beyond the original vision. It is my understanding that New Who has bled away most of the fans and is no longer making money but rather losing it. While it is extremely unlikely that anyone in a position of power will even hear my commentary, and less likely to follow it if they did, I will nonetheless give my advice on how to make Doctor Who solvent again. So, if anyone would like to make the series profitable again and grow the fan base, here are the steps which must be followed. Number 1. There must be a complete break with the entire New Who series. There are two ways that this could be done. The first way would be to start with the 8th Doctor, or maybe with a new 9th Doctor who comes directly after him, and start writing new episodes from then on. It can pick up where the original series left off, and all the New Who will be as if it never was. I realize that there is a lot of time and possibly a fair amount of ego involved in the New Who series, so the people involved will not so easily let it go. The New Who can still be available for purchase, in the event that anyone still wants it, and the fans can choose between which interpretation or continuation they like better. The other option is to start completely over again with a new First Doctor and create a reboot series which follows in the same frame, mode, and tone of the original series, but exists in a completely separate timeline. Either way, the bottom line is that I will not watch any Doctor Who series which in any way includes the events of the New Who series in the canon. Many fans of the original Doctor Who series feel the same way. There have been way too many cringe moments in the New Who series, and among the worst developments was making the Doctor, and by extension all Time Lords, into hermaphrodites. This was a terrible development done strictly for ideological reasons without thought given to logic or consistency. These elements are baggage, which would only weigh down and corrupt a new series, and must therefore be done away with thoroughly. Item number 2. There must be no current year politics in the series. People watch entertainment to get away from real-life troubles and annoyances. Right now, leftist politics are dominant in much, if not most, of the world. People do not need to tune into entertainment in order to get large doses of these politics, especially in English-speaking countries. Escapism should be escapist. So, is your goal to produce escapism or to preach an ideology? It cannot be both. If you make escapism, there will be profit, but if you preach woke ideology, it will be money down the drain. It would be good to avoid, as a rule, making any depiction of current or recent political figures. Since Doctor Who involves both space and time travel, this should not be a difficult task. Do not include any LGBT XYZ content. The truth of the matter is, most people are not like that. Most people do not notice when such content is not there, but they do notice when it is. Is your goal to preach a new set of morals, or is it to entertain and subsequently get rich off of selling action figures and posters? If you are not able to determine what is appropriate or acceptable, then look at the run of the first 4 Doctors. If something was out of bounds for that run, then it should be out of bounds for whatever comes next. Number 3. Get new writers. Do not retain any of the writers from the New Who series. If any of those people are retained, they will certainly try to reintroduce the same bad ideas, no matter how many rules are set for them. Number 4. Codify the rules. When you set out to make a new series or continue the original series, codify the rules and operations of the universe for the series. For example, in the original Doctor Who series, it was established near the end of the War Games that Time Lords are immortal and only die if there is a serious mishap or murder. This reminded me somewhat of J.R.R. Tolkien's elves, who also typically only die under those circumstances as well. The fact that Time Lords still age until they reach a point where they must refresh is a novel approach to immortality. It also provides cover for the fact that the actors are aging, and a convenient plot device for replacing them. Basically, under the original model, the series could last forever, but later it was established that they only get 12 regenerations, which not only contradicted established lore, but also limited how long the series could run. The longer a series runs and the more it changes hands, the more likely it is that contradictions will arise. That is why it's necessary to codify the rules and refer back to them. I think the new series should not impose a limit on how many regenerations the Time Lords have, and that anything new which is established should not contradict pre-existing lore. As the series grows, all the writers should be required to watch the pre-existing shows, or at the very least read the rules and have their ideas and proposals checked over by people familiar with the lore. Anytime a new species or villain is introduced, the rule book would have to be expanded to include the guidelines and parameters for this. Something that makes sci-fi fans different from other types of fandom is that we notice every time there is a contradiction or a continuity error. Maybe a new idea is actually better than the original iteration, but if it contradicts, then that makes it difficult to accept. Before adding a new rule, it should be checked against the existing list to make certain it does not contradict, and if it does not, then it should be added to the list so that it is not accidentally contradicted later on. Number 5. Follow the format of the original Doctor Who series in terms of pacing and episode length. The original series did well with 30-minute episodes and with story arcs that took however many episodes as they took in order to resolve. If you have to fill a 1-hour slot, then release 2 episodes at a time. Designing stories to fill 1-hour slots forced a change in the type of stories that could be told, and in the pacing. Maybe some people did like that, but if Doctor Who is going to be Doctor Who, then it needs to follow the original format. Number 6. When traveling back in time, use the correct demographics for the location and period. The future can be what you make of it, but if you are writing a story about the past, then it needs to actually look like the past. You can write historical fiction, but in doing so, you need to conform to the setting of time and place. If not, then what you are writing is pure fantasy and not historical fiction. If that is the goal, then I would ask, why bother with time travel at all? The Doctor need not visit Europe every time he goes back in time. There are other parts of the world where different people groups live, and they all have their own histories. In real life, there are only 6 human civilizations which are considered pristine or fully original. The 6 pristine cultures are Egypt, China, Sumer, the Indus Valley culture, Olmecs, and the Chavin culture of Peru. There is lots of potential there for writing a Doctor Who episode, for writing many Doctor Who episodes, in fact. My point is, there is no need to anachronistically project 21st century demographics on medieval or ancient Europe. If the desire is to feature other groups, it can be accomplished by showing more of the world. You should take care to do research before attempting to explore history. If there is to be a revival of Doctor Who, and a new series or continuation made which flows in the same vein as the original, it should be obvious that Doctor Who cannot morph into something else and still be Doctor Who, much less taken as Doctor Who by the fans. With the way trust has been broken, it will be extremely difficult to bring me back to any new series with the Doctor Who name on it. But if my list is followed, then word will gradually spread, and it can be done. Destruction is quick, whereas building takes time. That being said, I believe that Lugersham, who requested this video, probably wants to hear some of my creative suggestions in terms of story concepts. Unlike the previous set of items, what follows now is not necessary for a new Doctor Who to succeed, but I would like to see these concepts explored and offer my suggestions to anyone with the will to carry them out. One idea from the original series which was left hanging was the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan. What ultimately became of her? We know that she chose to remain on Earth, but Time Lords outlive humans, so eventually she would want to move on to something else. Did the doctor have a wife, or was it just a fling? Did something happen to his wife, or might she be one of the factors that drove him to run away? It might be worthwhile to explore these items in a new or revived series. In future episodes, I would actually like to see less time spent on Earth, or at least the current year Earth. The Doctor might grab companions from current year, but ideally he would not spend much time there. If he gets banished to Earth again, it would be more interesting to have him get banished into the past or the future. Of course, it's cheaper and easier to just shoot everything in a modern setting, but that also makes it easier and more tempting for the producers to comment on modern situations, which is something I don't want to see. A concept I would like to see explored further is the Thals. Skara was home to more than one species, and one of my all-time favorite Doctor Who episodes is Planet of the Daleks. A good deal of time has been spent establishing the Daleks and their lore. It has been left a mystery what happens to the Thals. Do they spend their time trying to match and defeat the Daleks, or do they focus on getting away from them? Either way, there is a story in that which could be explored. Maybe they go to in space to get away from the Daleks forever. Maybe they become oppressors themselves in order to avoid being oppressed by others. Finally, I would like to see more time spent exploring other universes. In the episode Battlefield, the Doctor mentions going forward through time, back through time, and sideways. I thought this was an intriguing and original way of expressing the notion of travel between universes. To me, this was one of the most interesting episodes with the Seventh Doctor because of the concepts it dealt with. Basically, people come in from another universe, and in this other universe, full heavy armor is in use along with firearms. My guess would be that it came back into use just as full body armor is in the process of coming back into use in our universe right now, but in terms of appearance, it resembled late medieval gear. Going to other universes presents all sorts of potential for new stories and testing out new concepts. There is also the possibility of revisiting in space. I could come up with more ideas if I decide to dwell on this topic further, but I think that this should be sufficient for now. Realistically, I don't expect anything to be done, but thanks for listening all the same.